This is KGW News at Sunrise.
At least 2 heroic people inside the club confronted and fought with the suspect.
5 people died in another mass shooting at an LGBTQ plus nightclub. This morning, what we know about an earlier incident that could have triggered Colorado's red flag law and taken away the suspect's weapons.
Plus, a fire at a hemp plant caused evacuations in Grass Valley. That's an area south of Wasco. Wow, look at those flames. 5 employees were injured. What we know this morning, coming up.
And we are live from the Gold Soccer Bar just off Hawthorne Boulevard in Southeast. I have never seen a bar
Wow,
packed.
at 5 a.m.
There's a reason. Moments ago, they started their World Cup kickoff party. And yes, don't check the time. It is 5 a.m. They're going the extra mile for the Cup this year. They're going to be open every game, no matter what time it is. And they're playing in Qatar or Qatar. Pick your pronunciation. Yeah. But they're 11 hours ahead of Oregon. So there you go. We're going to check in with them again in just a few minutes.
Oh my goodness. Good morning to you. Thank you for joining us on a Monday. Those folks are out. You're up. We're up.
Let's take credit, though. We are the original up at all hours people. Yes. All right, that's pretty exciting stuff, though. Here's a look at radar. We actually have a weak push of moisture coming in this morning. You can see some decent light rain between Tillamook, Astoria, Longview. We've had a few spots down around Salem this morning. Increasing cloudiness, kind of partly to mostly cloudy up top right now, and generally above freezing. I haven't even said that in a long time. The only spots that have been above freezing for about a week now are the ones out near the gorge, Troutdale, where the winds are still blowing this morning, by the way. Here's our day moving forward. So we have that rain chance, mainly traceable stuff here in the valley this morning. Otherwise, moving forward, a mostly cloudy to partly cloudy day, mid-40s at noon. We get up to about 50 for a high, 46 at 5 p.m. One of my big weather stories today, the east wind will finally completely shut off tomorrow. That's coming up in my 7-day.
Okay, thanks, Rod. Our top story this morning, 5 people were killed, 25 others injured when a gunman opened fire at an LGBTQ plus nightclub in Colorado Springs.
This happened late Saturday night. 2 people inside the club tackled the suspected shooter, and this morning he's in custody. Here's NBC's Jay Gray.
Flowers, cards, and crime scene tape now surround a place where so many gathered to feel secure and free.
That's what we built Club Q for, is to be that safe haven.
Safety shattered by a spray of gunfire.
Bodies on the ground, blood, shattered glass, people dead.
At least 5 dead, more than 24 wounded when police say 22-year-old Anderson Lee Aldrich walked inside the LGBTQ nightclub, firing into the crowd before he was wrestled to the ground.
At least 2 heroic people inside the club confronted and fought with the suspect and were able to stop the suspect from continuing to kill and harm others.
Police recovered 2 weapons immediately after the massacre. Investigators and federal agents continue to search the club, trying to figure out how and why it happened.
The motive of the crime is part of the investigation, and whether this was a hate crime is part of that investigation.
Many in this grieving community say the answer to that question is clear.
And last night they were met with hate, and they deserve better than that.
And so they gather, families, friends, survivors, to honor those lost, making sure their light continues to shine. Jay Gray, NBC News, Colorado Springs.
We've learned the suspected shooter had a previous incident that could have triggered Colorado's red flag law. In June of last year, he allegedly threatened his mother with a homemade bomb. Neighbors had to evacuate while the bomb squad and crisis negotiators talked him into surrendering. But prosecutors didn't move forward with charges, and no one tried to trigger the state's red flag law, which would have allowed authorities to seize his weapons and ammunition for a minimum of 14 days. It's unclear if this would have prevented the tragedy Saturday night, but police say this incident will be studied while they investigate the mass shooting.
And we're getting a better picture of what happened the night 4 University of Idaho students were murdered in a home near campus. It's been just over a week and no suspects have been named, no murder weapon found. And at this point, investigators say they've received more than 600 tips. They say each student died of stab wounds, and they now think those students were killed in their sleep. Here's the timeline on the night of Saturday, November 12th. Police say 2 of the victims went to a local bar and some food trucks before being driven home around 1:45 a.m. Police don't think a man or the rideshare driver that the suspect spoke to were involved. The other 2 victims were at a frat party and were also home by about the same time, 1:45. A couple roommates came home around 1 a.m. They didn't wake up until later the next day, and that is when a 911 call came from a roommate's cell phone. Police have confirmed other friends of those victims were also at the home when officers responded, but police don't think the surviving roommates or anyone at the house that day were involved.
Now to Sherman County, where a fire at a hemp plant is forcing evacuations. This is happening in the town of Grass Valley, and people living there had to leave, fearing large explosions from all the combustible chemicals. Officials will inspect this area today to see if and when folks can go back home. Now, this video is of the building fully engulfed in flames. Officials had to release thermal imaging because there was such thick fog in the area at the time. Deputies report small explosions and 5 employees suffered burns. Highway 97 had to shut down, but it reopened last night. At this point, investigators don't know what caused the fire.
And taking a look at some of your other morning headlines, a shooting in North Portland last night hurt a 17-year-old girl. We aren't sure how she is, but we know she was taken to the hospital. This is video from the scene along North Greeley Avenue near Ainsworth Street, and it's where police found the girl around 8 p.m. But they think the shooting happened somewhere else. This is the 3rd shooting involving teenagers since last Monday in the city. So far, there have been no arrests in any of the shootings. Now to a deadly shooting near the Portland International Airport, PDX. Details are scarce right now, but here's what we know. It happened at the Embassy Suites. One person was shot and killed just after 9:30 Saturday night. Investigators say somewhere between 1 to 3 suspects just took off. The East County Major Crimes Team is continuing that investigation. And Roy Russell, a Vancouver man previously sentenced to life in prison for killing a 14-year-old girl in 2005, was resentenced on Friday. A change to Washington's 3 strikes law had some people worried that he could walk free. Russell was sentenced to 26 years for strangling Chelsea Harrison to death. With time served, that means Russell will serve an additional 9 years in prison.
Winter weather definitely hitting the Midwest and East Coast over the weekend. It was crazy and record-setting. Western New York finally digging itself out of the snow this morning. They had, in some places, more than 6 feet. This is video from Buffalo's, New York, where the airport reported 14 inches of snow just in one pop. They temporarily closed for a few hours because of the low visibility, but despite all of this, airport staff says they are ready for the upcoming holiday travel season.
Oh, they love it. Good for you, Buffalo. They love it. They celebrate it. Buffalo.
My daughter went to college in upstate New York in the little town of Troy, and I just texted her. I'm like, Buffalo, 6 feet. She goes, oh, they always get snow in Buffalo.
Lake effect snow, right?
I worked in Grand Rapids, Michigan. That's where I got most of my weather training, actually. And that's 30-some miles inland from the shore of Lake Michigan. We could have a day where it was partly cloudy. We can get a flurry. And I would go do a noon live shot near the lake, and they would have 3 feet of snow.
Unbelievable.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Just crazy, that lake effect snow. Hey, real quick, we're going to celebrate the east wind's ending. So this will be the 9th day that folks in East Multnomah County and East Clark and East Clackamas County, to some degree, have had gusty east winds. It started 9 days ago with the strongest winds being on the 17th, when we had pops up to about 50 miles per hour. We've had gusts this morning break 30. Right now we're at 26. But I'm here to tell you, a cold front coming in tomorrow will be strong enough to shut those east winds down, finally turn your winds to the southwest, and then we really ought to have fairly light winds Wednesday, Thursday, Friday into the first part of the weekend. So you folks, I know it gets old, I know, and it's almost over for you. All right, otherwise, away from the gorge, winds are pretty light this morning. They've been that way the last couple of days. Here's the front, by the way, that I'm talking about that comes in tomorrow. Brings us some decent rain, shuts off those east winds. There's a weak band of moisture ahead of that. This is going to fizzle out in the coming hours. Right now, we have some light rain around Astoria, Tillamook, Kelso, Longview. We've got some traces of rain in the mid-Willamette Valley. We are from Eugene up through Kelso above freezing. First time we've done that in I think about a week, where everybody's generally been holding above freezing up and down I-5. 31 out in the Dalles. Another chilly day in the gorge expected. It's only 2 in Burns and only 12 in Baker City. Futurecast 9 o'clock this morning doesn't really show the light rain that radar's picking up. It does show kind of a partly sunny day moving forward. Here we are this evening at 7 p.m. Here's tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. The main rain band still offshore, quickly comes in during the morning hours. Current timing is starting to move into the metro area up and down I-5 at 10 in the morning. Pretty wet through the noon hour, some heavier rain bands coming through, and then breaking up later in the day. Here we are at 3 o'clock, and then the evening goes on to be mainly dry. How much rain are we talking about tomorrow? Most forecast models give about 1/4 of an inch on average for the valley. This shows over 1/2 of an inch in Astoria. Now, there could be some heavier rain pockets tomorrow in the Willamette Valley that pick up more than 1/4 of an inch. So a decent soak coming tomorrow. 49, 50 today, 50 tomorrow. There's the dry weather. Thanksgiving Day, dry and mild, a high of 56. Thanksgiving Day is taller than I am. That means it's going to be pretty nice.
That's how you know. That's how you know, Ron. Thank you.